A billionaire visits his son's grave, only to find a waitress, crying there with a child. What if I told you that the greatest fortune a man could ever discover wasn't in a boardroom or a bank vault, but at a gravestone where strangers were crying over his dead son? What if that discovery would reveal a secret so powerful it would shatter everything he thought he knew about family, love, and the legacy we leave behind? Before we dive into this incredible story that will challenge everything you believe about second chances and hidden blessings, make sure you hit that like button if you believe love transcends death. Drop a comment telling me about a moment that changed your entire perspective on life. And don't forget to subscribe with notifications on, because stories like this will restore your faith in the power of family bonds that refuse to be broken. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. My name is Alexander Stone, and at 55 years old, I ruled an empire worth $3.2 billion. Stone Industries touched every corner of the globe: tech companies, real estate developments, pharmaceutical research, renewable energy. My name was carved into the Manhattan skyline. But none of that mattered on the cold October morning when I stood in Riverside Memorial Cemetery, staring at the granite headstone that read, James Alexander Stone, 1995–2018, beloved son. 5 years. It had been 5 years since my son died in a motorcycle accident, and the wound still felt fresh. We'd been fighting when he died, our last conversation a screaming match about his environmental idealism versus my business pragmatism. The guilt was a cancer that had eaten away everything good in my life. Every year on the anniversary, I made the same pilgrimage to this small cemetery in Carmel, California, where James had chosen to be buried near the ocean. But this year was different. A young woman knelt beside James's headstone, her shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. She wore a restaurant uniform, and beside her, a little boy who couldn't have been more than 4 was placing small stones on the grave in careful patterns. My first instinct was anger. This was my private moment of grief. But as I got closer, something stopped me cold. The little boy looked up at me with eyes that were achingly familiar. James's eyes, the same deep green that had looked at me with disappointment during our final fight. "Mama," the child said, tugging on the woman's sleeve. "There's a man here." The woman scrambled to her feet, clutching the boy protectively. "I'm sorry. We didn't mean to intrude. We were just... I'll move." "Wait," I said, my voice rough. "This is my son's grave, James Stone. Who are you?" The woman's face went pale. "My name is Maya Rodriguez. This is my son, Diego. We come here sometimes to visit." "Why would you visit my son's grave?" Maya glanced around as if looking for escape, then spoke barely above a whisper. "Because Diego is James's son." The words hit me like a physical blow. I staggered backward, my mind reeling as I looked at Diego's face and saw my son, my grandson, staring back at me. "That's impossible," I managed, though the resemblance was undeniable. "James and I were together during his last year at Stanford," Maya said, her voice gaining strength. "Diego was born 8 months after the accident." "Why didn't you tell me? 5 years, and you never reached out." Maya's expression hardened. "I tried. I called your office dozens of times, wrote letters, even flew to New York once. Your security wouldn't let me past the lobby. Your assistant said you weren't accepting communications related to your son's death." The accusation stung because it was probably true. In my grief, I'd built walls so high that even my own family couldn't reach me. "So you gave up?" "I made a choice. I chose to protect my son from a grandfather who clearly didn't want to know he existed." Diego tugged on Maya's hand. "Mama, is this my grandpa?" Maya looked down at her son, then back at me. "Yes, mijo, this is your father's father." Diego studied me with frank curiosity. "Do you miss my daddy?" The simple question broke something open in my chest. I knelt to his eye level. "Every day, buddy. Every single day." "Me too. Mama shows me pictures, but I don't remember him." I looked up at Maya, seeing her in a new light. Not an intruder, but the mother of my grandson, the keeper of James's memory. Can we talk somewhere private? Maya hesitated, then nodded. There's a cafe down the road. At the cafe, Maya told me about her relationship with James, how they'd met in an environmental science class, how he'd talked about using his family's resources for good, how he'd dreamed of a different life than the one I'd planned for him. He never talked about his family's money, Maya said. I didn't even know who his father was until I Googled him after our third date. What did you think when you found out? I was terrified. I was a scholarship kid from East LA. James was the heir to a billion-dollar empire. I almost broke up with him. But you didn't. He convinced me money didn't matter to him. He said he wanted to build something different, something better than what his father had created. She paused. He said he never wanted to become like you. The words hit their target, but I couldn't argue with them. When did you find out you were pregnant? 2 weeks after the accident. I was devastated, alone, and suddenly responsible for carrying James's child. I watched Diego stack cookie crumbs into tiny towers. How have you managed? I work 3 jobs. We have a small apartment and we don't need anything from you. What if I wanted to be part of his life now? Maya studied my face. Why now? What's changed? I've lost everything else. My wife left me, my daughter barely speaks to me. But Diego, he's a piece of James. Maybe the best piece. James wouldn't want his son to be a consolation prize for your loneliness. Maybe you're right. But maybe it's a chance to be the grandfather to Diego that I failed to be as a father to James. Maya was quiet for a long time. Diego asks about his father every day. I tell him stories, but I only knew James for 2 years. You knew him his whole life. Not well enough. Maybe not, but you're the only other person who loved him as much as I did. Diego finished his cookie and held up a crayon drawing. Look, I drew Daddy's grave with flowers. It's beautiful, mijo, Maya said, tears in her eyes. Can I draw one for Grandpa too? The word grandpa hit me like a sledgehammer. I'd like that very much. As Diego drew with intense concentration, Maya leaned forward. If you want to be part of his life, it can't be on your terms. It has to be about him. I understand. Do you? Because Diego doesn't need a grandfather who shows up when convenient. He needs consistency, presence, love without conditions. I want to try. I want to be the grandfather Diego deserves. Maya studied my face. Okay. But we start slow. Supervised visits, and if I ever feel this isn't in Diego's best interest, it ends immediately. Fair enough. Diego finished his drawing and handed it to me, a simple sketch of a gravestone with 2 stick figures. That's you and me visiting Daddy. I stared at the drawing, my vision blurring. It's perfect, Diego. Thank you. As we prepared to leave, Diego slipped his hand into mine. Will you come visit Daddy with us again? I squeezed his hand gently. Yes, I'd like that very much. Over the next months, I began building a relationship with my grandson. Maya kept strict boundaries, public places, supervised visits, clear limitations. I learned that Diego was brilliant like his father, with insatiable curiosity about everything. Grandpa, why do you have so much money? He asked one afternoon at a park. Because I built companies that make things people need. But money isn't the most important thing, Diego. Love, family, friendship, those matter more. Then why did you choose money over Daddy? The question came from nowhere. Maya started to intervene, but I held up a hand. Because I made a mistake. I thought providing for your daddy meant working all the time. But what he really needed was for me to be there, to listen, to show him he mattered more than any business deal. Diego nodded solemnly. Mama says Daddy loved you anyway. I love you, Grandpa, Diego said simply, then went back to feeding ducks. I looked at Maya, who was watching with an unreadable expression. He has his father's heart, she said softly. James forgave people easily, too. These moments accumulated into something larger. I learned Diego's favorite foods, stories, and dreams. I also learned about Maya's life, how she'd graduated college while pregnant, worked multiple jobs, never asked for help from anyone. Why didn't you try harder to contact me? I asked one evening. Because I was proud and hurt. When your people turned me away, it felt like another rejection. I began to understand the life Maya had built, modest but rich in community and love. Diego was surrounded by people who cared about him for who he was, not what he could provide. I want to contribute, I told Maya. College fund, better apartment. Money isn't what Diego needs from you. What does he need? Time, attention, stories about his father. The same things every child needs from their grandfather. As winter turned to spring, I found myself looking forward to visits with Diego more than any business meeting. We developed rituals, Saturday breakfasts, afternoon walks, bedtime stories about James's childhood. Tell me about when Daddy was little, Diego would say. I'd share carefully edited tales of James's adventures, rediscovering the joy my son had brought before I'd buried it under ambition. But old instincts surfaced. Diego's daycare isn't academically rigorous enough, I told Maya. I've researched excellent private programs. Stop. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Diego doesn't need academic rigor. He needs finger painting and playground time. But his potential will develop naturally. James was brilliant not because he was pushed, but because he was allowed to explore at his own pace. I thought about the pressure I'd put on James. Maya was right. Again. As spring progressed, Maya relaxed boundaries. I was allowed solo outings, zoo trips, baseball games, beach visits where we'd build sandcastles. During one beach trip, Diego found sea glass. Look, Grandpa, it's like a green diamond. Your daddy always appreciated things that were beautiful and natural. Diego pocketed the glass carefully. That evening, as I dropped him off, he hugged me tight. I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, Diego. For the first time in 5 years, I wasn't just surviving, I was looking forward to tomorrow. 6 months into our relationship, I took Diego camping in Big Sur. As we lay in sleeping bags under the stars, he asked, "Do you think my daddy can see us from heaven?" I like to think he can, and he'd be very proud of you. Mama says that's why we visit his grave at night sometimes, so he can see the stars. Night visits? I asked, surprised. On special days. Maybe you could come with us next time. Mama says you probably wouldn't want to, but I think you would. Why would she think I wouldn't want to? Diego struggled with something. Because of the secret. My blood ran cold. What secret, buddy? I'm not supposed to tell. But there's someone else who visits Daddy's grave. Someone Mama is scared of. Who, Diego? A lady. She cries and leaves flowers, but when Mama sees her, we have to hide. Do you know who she is? Diego nodded. Mama says she's my aunt, Daddy's sister. Sophia, my daughter. Has this lady ever seen you? Once. She saw me and Mama and started walking toward us, but Mama picked me up and we ran. She said my name like she knew me. The next morning, I cut our trip short and confronted Maya. Diego told me about Sophia, about you hiding from her. Maya's face went pale. He wasn't supposed to tell anyone. Why have you been avoiding my daughter? Because 3 months ago, she hired a private investigator to find me. A man came to my work asking questions. I went into hiding for 2 weeks. My mind spun. Sophia had known about Diego and hadn't told me. Why didn't you tell me this? Because I was afraid you'd choose her over us. She's your daughter, your blood. We're just complications. You're not complications, you're my family, and I won't let anyone, including Sophia, threaten that. What are you going to do? Talk to my daughter, find out what she knows and what she wants. And if she wants to take Diego away? I thought about the little boy who had changed my life. Then she'll have to go through me first. I flew to New York and confronted Sophia at her Brooklyn apartment without warning. You hired a private investigator, I said, without preamble. You know about Diego. Sophia's facade cracked. How do you? Because I've been spending time with him, with Maya. You've been spending time with him? I've known for months. Why didn't you tell me you had a grandson? I just found out 6 months ago. That's impossible. You've been sending money to Maya Rodriguez for years. She handed me bank records showing monthly payments from Stone Industries to Maya, $5,000 a month for 5 years. I didn't send this money, I said, studying the documents. I've never seen these transactions. But your signature, it's forged. I studied the authorization more closely. Someone with access to my accounts has been sending money to Maya. The implications hit us both. Catherine, I breathed. Mom. My ex-wife was the only other person with signing authority. She could have authorized payments and forged my signature. She knew I'd shut down emotionally after James died. She made sure Diego was cared for without telling us. We called Catherine immediately, putting her on speakerphone.
Catherine, I need you to tell me about the payments to Maya Rodriguez. Silence then. Put me on speaker. Mom, did you know about Diego? Sophia asked. A long pause, then a sigh. Yes, I've known since he was born. How? I asked. Maya contacted me instead of you. She sent pictures of the baby, told me about James. She wasn't asking for money. She just thought someone should know. Why didn't you tell us? Because I was afraid. Alexander, you were drinking yourself to death. Sophia, you were so angry you could barely be in the same room with your father. How could I bring an innocent child into that chaos? The money was from my settlement account, routed through Stone Industries. My way of making sure my grandson had what he needed. Sophia was crying. You kept him from us for 5 years. I protected him. Look at yourselves now. You're talking instead of shouting, both sober and focused on Diego instead of your pain. That didn't happen overnight.
She was right. The man I'd been 5 years ago would have been a disaster for Maya and Diego. When did you last speak to Maya? Last month. I call every few weeks, see pictures, hear about milestones. She never mentioned I'd found them. What? You've met Diego? I explained our 6-month relationship. And Maya didn't tell me? She thought the money was coming from you, so she's been terrified the family would try to take Diego away. I've made such a mess, Catherine whispered. We all have, I said. But maybe it's not too late to fix it. 3 days later, we converged on Carmel, myself, Sophia, Catherine, and Marcus, Sophia's husband. I'd explained everything to Maya, who agreed to meet in the same cafe where we'd first talked. When Maya and Diego arrived, Diego ran to me with his usual enthusiasm. Grandpa, you came back. I lifted him into a hug. I brought some people who want to meet you. This is your grandmother, Catherine, and this is your Aunt Sophia. Catherine stepped forward slowly. Hello, Diego. I'm your daddy's mother. Diego studied her seriously. You look like Grandpa. Catherine laughed through tears. You look like your daddy. Sophia knelt to his level. Hi, Diego. I'm your daddy's sister. Daddy had a sister? He did. He used to tell me about wanting children someday, about teaching them to swim and take them camping. Grandpa took me camping. We saw lots of stars. Your daddy loved the stars too. The conversation that followed was careful but honest. Catherine explained her reasoning for secretly supporting Maya and Diego, her fear that revealing his existence would create chaos. Maya listened quietly. I understand why you did it, but it put me in an impossible position. I spent 5 years thinking Alexander knew about Diego and chose not to be involved. I was trying to protect everyone, but I ended up hurting everyone instead. Sophia had been watching Diego with fascination. I lost 5 years with him, 5 years of birthdays and bedtime stories. I can't get that back. No, Maya said gently, but you can have all the years going forward. Diego, sensing tension, went to Sophia. Don't be sad, Aunt Sophia. I'm here now. Sophia broke down, gathering Diego into her arms while he patted her back with the comfort techniques he'd learned from Maya. We spent the afternoon together, walking on the beach, visiting James's grave as a family, beginning to weave our separate stories into one shared narrative. That evening, Catherine approached Maya. I want to keep sending the monthly payments, not as a secret, but as Diego's grandmother. Alexander has offered help with college savings. Please. It's the only way I know how to be his grandmother from across the country. Okay, but not as charity, as family. As family. As we said goodbyes, Diego hugged each new family member. Will I see you again? He asked Sophia. As often as your mama will let me. Next time, we should all visit Daddy together. I think he'd like that. Standing in that parking lot, surrounded by family that had been scattered by grief but was slowly coming back together, I felt something I hadn't experienced in 5 years. Hope. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to believe in second chances, and tell me in the comments. What's the most important lesson you've learned about family and forgiveness? Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications because I've got more incredible true stories coming that will remind you what really matters in life. 2 years later, I'm writing from a house I bought in Carmel, 10 minutes from Maya and Diego's apartment. The empire still exists, run by capable executives while I focus on what truly matters, being a grandfather and learning to be a better father to Sophia. Diego is 6 now, brilliant in ways that take my breath away. He reads voraciously, asks challenging questions, and has an innate sense of justice that reminds me daily of his father's values. Sophia visits every few months, documenting Diego's childhood with her filmmaker's eye. She's working on a documentary about single-parent families, inspired by Maya's strength. Catherine moved to Monterrey last year, finally close enough to be the hands-on grandmother she'd always wanted to be. She and Maya have developed genuine friendship, bonded by shared love for Diego and memories of James. Maya and I are taking things slowly, building friendship while navigating the complexities of being co-grandparents who might become something more. Last week, on the anniversary of James's death, we visited his grave together, all of us. Diego placed a picture he'd drawn on the headstone, the whole family together, including a figure labeled Daddy, watching from the sky. I think he's happy, Diego said. He has everyone he loves all in one place. Standing in the cemetery where this journey began, surrounded by family that grief had scattered but love had reassembled, I realized Diego was right. The billionaire who walked into that cemetery 2 years ago was looking for his lost son. What he found was his grandson, his daughter, his ex-wife, and a young woman whose love had kept James's memory alive when his own family had given up hope. Most importantly, he found himself, not the ruthless businessman or absent father, but the grandfather Diego deserved, the father Sophia still needed, and the man James had always hoped he could become. Money can buy many things, but it can't buy back time, repair relationships, or heal hearts. Only love can do that. Only family can do that. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get a second chance to get it right. Hit that subscribe button if you believe in the power of family, love, and second chances. Trust me, you won't want to miss what I'm sharing next week.